What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3, season 1, episode 3 of Unhinged. Myself, Joe Everest, defense expert, with the one and the only Matt the Miracle. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great. I am. Now that episode 3 has been released, everybody can know that I did a little teaser on the last one.
Yep.
Almost let the cat out of the bag. Just so everybody knows, Joe and I are trying to stay ahead, just a little bit ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do 2 of these, and we're recording them and sending them back out to you. So we're just doing a recap because we really want to touch base about what Unhinged is all about. It really is all about the life lessons. It is sponsored by My Salesman, and you have an ad that is going to be coming out. I'm not sure when it is for your fence supply company. As a thank you to you for being a part of this, because we're paying you a whole lot of money.
doing it for the experience.
Yeah. Well, next season we're going to double your pay.
Oh, well, hot dog! I might not have to build fence anymore. Well, maybe I won't drop the old diggers off yet.
2 times 0 is still 0.
I was never great at math. Yeah, that seems to follow. Yeah, that follows.
So let's jump right in. Let's talk about. I got a couple notes here that I wrote down. Let's jump in. First of all, the My Salesman tool really does get used.
Yes.
And it really does get measures, which, by the way, it is a great budget tool to get a budget idea and to measure it out so you kind of know where you're at. And by the way, I have used this on commercial jobs before. I've used it mostly for temp fence. Whenever I have a client that wants to know, hey, what would it cost to put a temp fence around this area? I always tell them, hey, just go to our website, draw out where you want you, click on the temp fence. If you want panels across the concrete, then click panels. And you can build kind of an estimate right there, and they'll give you a good budget number of where to be. I always tell them, we promise we can fall within that budget. And it really does work for that. It's a plug for My Salesman. It really does work. Now,
the reason it's going to fit in that budget is you set the number, right? You set the goal number, right? Yep. And then you can adjust based on your business a low percentage. So say random numbers, 10% below, 15% above, or 10 below, 20 above. You can set those numbers wherever you like. You can change them at any time, but that's how hey, it's going to come in. Now, you leave it a little high so that if you get out there and all of a sudden you're jogging around transformers or there's something weird, doesn't have great access or something, you've got some wiggle room in there. But you set the goal number or your retail number as well as the below percentage and above percentage.
Yep. It works really well. I'm telling everybody, I know that it seems weird, but to be able to have somebody go on there and do a drawing and get a budget number, but it really does work well. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I've just drawn a quick fence, even on my phone, and it's a little more difficult on the phone, but I've drawn it for people to say, people know that I'm a fence guy, so they'll be like, hey, I need a new fence. What do you think? Well, give me your address.
Yeah.
I put it in, and then what's really cool is that goes to my guys, and my guys end up calling them the next day, and they're like, hey, your guys called me, and I told them we were just kind of getting budget numbers. I go, that's the idea.
Yeah.
That's literally the idea of this. So,
all
right.
Well, let me ask you one thing, because like one of the pushbacks I hear, and we heard this in last episode, because Billy Gates says, Jackson gets paid what for this fence? Or Jackson makes what for this fence? And it kind of softly acknowledges the fact that, man, if I wanted to know how much you did temp fence for, all I got to do is use your tool and it's going to tell me.
Absolutely.
As if no one knows what everyone else's numbers are.
Right. As if you won't know when you go to Mrs. Jones' house and she says, by the way, Joe, here's Matt's number.
Yeah.
Can you beat this? And that's the exact number. The beautiful thing about My Salesman is it has a range. And nobody knows where your number is in that range except for you. And if you're smart about your range, you're going to set it about where everybody is anyhow. And all you're doing is giving them some instant information. So it's really not a big deal. Plus, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I've heard so many people tell me, yeah, but you don't know. It's really competitive in my area. Okay. I'm in a town of 275,000 people. and there's 16 fence guys. That's a lot of fence guys chasing out. Literally, it is very difficult for us to compete, but I don't even care because I know that when they get that number, that range is big enough. Every one of those 16 companies fits inside that range.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, because that's always, they're like, well, I don't want everyone to know my numbers. Like, well, okay, let's think about this for a second. So I bet you've got a pretty good idea, your top 3 competitors, where they're at on a 6-foot privacy fence. Well, yeah. So doesn't it follow that they probably have a pretty good idea where your numbers are already? Like you said, the customers are showing these, or on commercial, you'll be in those bidding situations where they'll say, hey, and sometimes they tell you who it is, sometimes they're not, but hey, I got a low bid for X. Is there anything we can do? Which is its own set of problems.
Which, by the way, sometimes they put it out as public knowledge where everybody landed. Well, you can figure out about what your competitors are doing at that point in time. So it's all silliness because at the end of the day, your numbers need to be your numbers, and we're all pretty close. And really, it's all about efficiencies and how fast you can get into a job and get out of a job is how much money you make. So. Enough about my salesman.
Okay.
You want to talk about my salesman the whole time, but I want to talk about the storyline a little bit. First and foremost, I had no idea that Lucky was running for mayor.
That came out of left field.
Right. That totally caught me off guard. Well, and guys, by the way, everybody out there, I don't always know the storyline until I actually hear it because the writers like to keep me in the dark also.
Well, because when we're reading parts, we just read our parts.
Yep.
Like, at least for me, it was, here's your parts. Sometimes there's some context. A lot of times it's just your part. And then so, like, when I listened to episode 2 last week, episode 3 just now, it was all new to me because while I had lines, they weren't relevant to that storyline. Right. Like Jackson's not involved in the hunt for Lucky Pickett. Right. No. So Jackson's just trying to help. He's like, hey, if you need anything, I've got this quote tool. But what's funny, and I know you said no more of my salesman, but a little bit. So because the Jackson says, hey, I saw you use the quote tool. Billy says, yeah. I mean, no, I didn't.
Maybe it was one of my guys.
Yeah, but he goes, because he goes, that's weird because it says Billy Pickett or Billy Gates of Gates Physics, and he goes, it must have been one of the guys. Yeah. So we learned a little bit about the backside too. That you see this on the backside reporting. There's 2 reports. There's a fall off report of these people didn't follow it through all the way to the end. So sometimes you'll get an address and what kind of fence, maybe what kind of range of price they saw, and then they left before they got to the end. Or you have the actual leads report that has address, layout, material chosen, price range given, the whole kit and caboodle. So we're learning a little bit of that during the storyline as well.
Yeah, that was a good part. And it's funny when your competitors do go on your site, they fill it out, you can almost always sniff out who it is. And I chuckle at it anymore. I don't even care. And I had a guy finally sign up after a year of doing demos, and we kept seeing him do demos. He was going to the My Salesman site and doing demos on there just to use our measuring tool. And he finally said, I felt so guilty that I just had to sign up. And we knew that he was doing it the whole time. Sure. But we figured, you know what, eventually he'll sign up and he'll see the value in it. Yep. All right. So we have Lucky's running for mayor.
Yeah, we found that out because we were in Sheriff Cedar's office.
Yep.
So Billy got called to the office or asked to come by the office. Sheriff felt really bad about it. And then, of course, the sheriff is always also leaving everything everywhere. He left his gun in episode 1. Yeah, episode 2 or episode 3 just now left a taser. Yeah. And also, sheriff might have some like short-term memory problems because he keeps making the same mistakes over and over. But he says, but that's where we learn about. He said, hey, listen, we're not as like, there's not a conflict here like you think there is. I was actually helping Lucky run for mayor.
Right.
Billy says, you did what? He goes, you haven't heard? Yeah, I've got a video right here. We also learned that the sheriff is a little bit of a one-upper.
Yes. Which, by the way, in life, I'm telling you, and you know, I did a Monday, beginning of July, I did a Monday with Matt episode, and I talked about your circle of friends. And what I've just decided is that I don't want to be around. I don't want to spend an extended amount of time with people that are constantly trying to one up me. That you say, oh, we landed an $8,700 job the other day, and they say, oh yeah, well I landed two $10,000 jobs, and it's like, oh my goodness, okay, that's awesome for you. So what the life lesson here is be careful how you choose the people that you're around, and don't ever wrestle. My grandfather used to say, when you wrestle with a pig in mud, you both get muddy, but the pig enjoys it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to say anything more than, folks, when you're out there and you find that person that's constantly trying to one up you in life, you have to find a way to just remove yourself and don't get caught in that trap. Let's be proud of who we are. And I've said it for years. I've stolen a lot of ideas from my fence family, from the Seegers family, from the Bennett family, from my friend Russ Kircher, all these friends that I have. I've stolen their ideas, but I made my own recipe here. And I've chosen to go down the path that we're going with the sports construction and done that. But don't get caught up in those people that constantly want to one up you. And that's really the life lesson that we're talking about in this episode.
Absolutely. So leaving the office, go ahead.
Well, I also want to say that the other real life lesson is that Lattice accelerates the schedule.
Right.
And
here's 5 days off of it.
5 days off of it. Yep. The owners are coming in, and this, just so everybody knows, this is a real life scenario that happened to me on a job site. They didn't even tell us they were accelerating. They just sent us a blanket email saying, we need to be done on the 15th of this month rather than the 15th of the following month. They literally took 30 days, which we call 20 working days. And if there's a holiday in there, we take that out and we try to figure out, okay, if there's a holiday and a rain event, which Joe, you know, when we build our schedules on these commercial jobs, you have to put rain events in there, predicted rain events. Every month has an average over the last 25 years of how many rain events or lost productivity days there are. And that's out. And if you guys, anybody out there wants to learn more, ask some questions here on Joe's podcast, or maybe in a couple of weeks I can hop on and we can talk about commercial jobs. We can do that. But I want everybody to know that when you build this schedule, you build a schedule of 20 days. And let's say you're doing it in July and you know you're going to miss the 4th. And this year we actually took out the two days, the 3rd and the 4th, or the 4th and the 5th, because it's a Thursday, Friday. So now you're at 18 days of working, because we don't count Saturdays. We use Saturdays as a makeup day. And then we know for a fact that there's at least 3 rain events in July on average. So now we're down to 14 days or 15 days. I'm sorry, 18, 15. Sorry, my math is all positive. So now we're down to 15 working days.
Yeah.
That's all we have in July. So when we build our schedule, we build it around 15 days for that month. And anybody out there that's doing commercial jobs, you have to think this way. And then you use Saturday as your makeup day. We refuse to we just don't work on Sundays. We just say that's a family day of rest. We do it. Now, our access control team has went out and done an emergency repair. No different than on the farm when we grew up. We'd have to go feed the cows. But the real life event in episode 3, I want everybody to know and think about, and I wanted this to stimulate our thought, is in construction, there you have to plan, and you have to plan for what's going to happen. And in the month of July this year, where there's only 15 working days, so you have to communicate with your team. Hey guys, in mid-June, we started saying it in our Monday morning meetings. We started saying, hey guys, listen, there's only 15 working days. So we're going to have to work a couple Saturdays to try to get back up to that 17. We're going to have to work more efficiently. We're going to have to be having our equipment delivered quicker. We don't want to be wasting any time waiting for equipment to show up. So we have to have the rental side. This is all part of running a well-established fence company. Those little things that make the difference.
Absolutely.
Does any of that make sense, Joe?
Yep, absolutely. And so we're taking those real world experiences, or you took those real world experiences and are building them into this season, episode by episode.
Yes. Yep. And that lad has taken those 5 days off. Literally, I told the Brad, I said, listen, some of these big contractors, the client will just walk in and say, we want it on this day. And they don't. Now they will pay you for an accelerated schedule, but you have to have your numbers very, very good, because they're going to scrutinize them like crazy. Yep. They're going to always think they're getting ripped off.
Sure.
And so just so we know, we build overtime into every single job. That we just do that. That's been our way of practice since 2009 when I started. So everybody out there that's listening, I'm hoping that if you have questions about how to build a commercial schedule and do that, I'm not a coach, but I will try to give more information on this, because I really think that's been part of our secret to success, is understanding our schedules and making sure that we're setting realistic timeframes for our clients.
I think that's huge. And I think you can learn from that, not only on the commercial side, but also residential. Residential, we're doing a higher number of jobs to try to reach similar revenues, right? So when we're talking about weather events, there's a lot more dominoes in the line. Now they're smaller dominoes, but they're a lot more. So you almost have to, we'll do a thing where, so we plan on projects starting on Mondays, Tuesdays, finishing on Thursdays and Fridays. Well, we leave Wednesday as a flexible day, and that's flexible. We have weather on Tuesday. Okay, well, Tuesday's set is now Wednesday's set. And now we're still on schedule Thursday, Friday. So I say that to say it's not only in the commercial world where you really have to pay attention to, and for us, we know our production rates of our crews. They're not the same. We don't hire robots. They're not all exactly the same production rate, right? So this crew is X, this crew is Y, this crew is Z, and you gotta make sure everything aligns there.
Yep. Hey, and the other thing that I want to talk about is Lattice comes out and she says, hey, well, if you can't do it, no problem. We'll find somebody else that can.
Yeah.
Be very careful, and don't take this personally when they're threatening you. They don't know how else to do it. Their culture in their general contracting company isn't as good as ours here in the fence world.
Yeah.
I'm bragging about us fence guys, but their culture is, if I don't threaten these guys, they're going to give me backlash, and then I have a fight. So if you don't want to do it, I'll just find somebody else that will. And that's the bully syndrome. That's the Sheriff Sheeter move of, hey, you don't want to do it? I'll do it. But I also want to talk about one other little thing.
Okay.
If you ever get called to go in to clean up somebody else's mess that's been terminated, that's very scary.
Sure.
We early on in our career in our company, we got called to go in and clean up on a project that a company had already been terminated, and they were asking us to come in and save the day. We felt so honored and so flattered, and I got caught up in the emotion of being, we're gonna Superman
save the day.
Save the day. Skeletons everywhere, Joe. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, couldn't find out there's a reason.
Yes, and it was not the fence company's 100% their fault. It was 100% a team effort that they failed. Yeah. It was poor communication, poor expectations, horrible surveying. The soils were horrible. No place to dump. You had to take contaminated soils and take them to a different site. That was not. I mean, it was skeletons everywhere. So before you think you're going to go be the savior, take a little check.
Yeah.
And when we do get called by a company, we just say, hey, how about this? And this is my word of advice. Let's just say that, Joe, you were in trouble, and the contractor was getting ready to terminate you, and they called me. The first thing I would say is, hey, you know what? Let me call Joe and see if I can help Joe with maybe just some simple things, some suggestions to go. And most fence guys when I've called them, have said, I would love and welcome the help. I've heard that you guys know how to set these big posts really fast and how to do it. Can you show me? And we'll make brackets, and we went in and tried to help guys. And sometimes we don't ever even go. We just give a little bit of advice from a clear point of view.
Sure.
But then what we can do is, being friends with the general contractor, we can call the general contractor and say, hey, we've made some suggestions and we think Joe's going to do a better job. We highly recommend you to just keep plowing forward. And if we need to subsidize his crew, we would help them do that. And now that is being a good human and being nice and kind. Not everybody in the fence industry will do that. I know several guys that are like, oh, I'll go in there and do that because I can do it better than, well, we're not that way. Sure. We want to work with Joe and not against Joe.
Well, and fence contractors don't typically go into projects saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tank this sucker. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to trash this site. I'm going to take everybody off.
I'm going to try to fail just so I can learn to get better.
Yeah, I want to get thrown off. Hey, guys, let's take side bets on how long it takes us to get thrown off this job. Yeah, because that talk about messing with your pay.
Yeah. And you're bonding. If you bonded the job, you're done. You'll never bond another job ever again. Bonding companies won't do it. So
usually there's a good reason. Usually there's a backstory. But
so a little bit of the setup in episode 3 in the real life scenario is the accelerated schedule, the life lesson of your once again, Billy is constantly learning how to deal with his people, and you're eventually. There's even going to be some more life lessons about good culture and people. But right now, we're talking about accelerated schedules, getting the work done on time, being threatened by the general contractor, not taking offense to it. Just take it and walk away. Understand that that's just the way their mama taught them and that they don't know any better. Okay, but let's go back into the storyline.
Yeah, because Waverly's pretty excited at this point. She has her whole group of mystery solvers on this. And, Billy, he's got it in the back of his mind. Like we said last recap, there's a $50,000 reward. His credit's maxed. So these two things are linked, right? He's like, hey, if I solve this, it solves that. Well, Waverly's saying that. Billy just wants to build fence. He's like, now he's already in it because he found the truck. He brought the truck. Now he's in the middle of it whether he likes it or not. So she's talking about lifting fingerprints off the door with like some homemade fingerprint kit.
Super glue and tinfoil. Does that really work? I was going to Google it and I never did.
There should have been a disclaimer, Matt. Do not try this at home.
Bingo.
But now here it is. This is the disclaimer.
Everybody, you heard it here first. We don't know if any of that stuff works. I'll Google it later.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it probably doesn't. It probably doesn't.
Hey, so then Jackson has a little bit bigger role.
Well.
I mean, he offers to help. No, am I in the wrong episode again?
Not yet.
I did it again.
All right. Well,
that's why I tell everybody, don't tell me secrets. Don't ever tell. You know what? I blew it. Folks, I am so sorry. Let's just say Jackson.
We'll hear from Jackson next episode. Episode 4, you might hear more from Jackson. No, so where we end it, episode 3, is he's like, hey, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. Right. So Billy's talking to Waverly. Billy says, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. She goes, well, isn't there somebody that can help you? And Billy goes, well, there is somebody. But she goes, oh, not again, or something to that effect.
He's too nice of a guy. He's more worried about the turtles and the plastic straws.
Yeah, he seems like a guy that would ask you about your day and then also see how you felt about sea turtles with straws in their noses or something like that.
Holy cow.
And that's where the episode ends.
Joe, my face is red. I honestly did not do that on purpose. That, by the way, that was not a teaser. That was not a hook. That was just.
It is now. It is now.
Welcome to Matt's world. That's why my family will literally not tell me what we're buying people for Christmas. I have to be surprised at the same time because the cat will come out of the bag.
Yep. Well, Well, guys, stay tuned for episode 4 recap where we find out who's going to step in and help Billy Gates. Who could it be?
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And once again, that was not an intentional teaser or nothing. That was just me messing up again.
We're 2 for 2 on dropping teasers.
All right, very good. Let's wrap this episode up, Joe.
Yeah, guys, let us know what you think about the episode. Drop a comment in comments below. If you're not actually listening to the episodes, you should, because there's more to the story. There's things that we might be glossing over. Maybe there's some context. You should be listening to these. It comes out every Tuesday. Of course, these recaps come out on Thursday. If you'd like to listen, but you can't figure out where to find the podcast, we've got a link in the description below. Click the link. It'll take you to wherever you want to download it from. I listen to it on my Apple podcast. I wake up on Tuesday morning, and it's just there. It's ready for me to start my day on my way into work. So check us out there. Also, let us know what you think, like I said, in the comments below. And, we'll see you guys next week for episode 4 of season 1. For now, Joe Everest, fence expert, Matt the Miracle, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors, and we'll see you next week.